Hello there, and welcome to The Sleepy Scientist. Tonight, we drift into one of the most soothing experiences nature offers, the quiet music of rain. There is something ancient and comforting in the sound of rainfall, something that speaks directly to the nervous system and tells it to soften, something that reassures the mind that it is safe to rest. As we begin, allow your body to relax into whatever position feels easiest. Let your shoulders sink, your breath loosen, and your thoughts settle. If you'd like, close your eyes and imagine yourself somewhere calm, perhaps beneath a sheltered porch or by a window with gentle drops tapping softly against the glass, or in a quiet forest where the canopy above catches falling water, like fingers catching pearls. Think of rain not as weather, but as atmosphere, a soft veil drawn over the world that quiets movement, quiets sound, and quiets the mind. Rain has a way of slowing time. Streets grow quieter, air grows gentler, colors deepen. Even the light feels different, softer, more diffuse, more thoughtful. The world seems to lean inward, reducing urgency, inviting contemplation. People stop rushing, houses feel cocooned, and the sky becomes a soft blanket of gray that deepens focus and encourages rest. There is calm in watching raindrops gather and slide across a window pane, calm in hearing steady pattering on rooftops, calm in feeling the subtle weight of humidity wrap softly around you. This is not a loud storm or a violent downpour. This is the gentlest rain, the kind that lingers, the kind that hushes, the kind that seems to fall for the sake of soothing rather than soaking. And as we move through the quiet science and serene beauty of rainfall tonight, if this brings you peace or rest, I'd be grateful if you subscribed and made this channel part of your nightly journey into calm, a little refuge where the world slows down and the mind can finally breathe. Rain often begins its journey long before clouds are visible, as moisture slowly rises from oceans, rivers, and forest leaves lifted upward by warmth, carried higher by gentle thermals, and gathered into droplets that eventually become too heavy to remain suspended. This cycle is ancient and continuous, connecting sea to sky, sky to land, and land back to sea in an endless circulation that feels almost like the planet's respiration. In understanding that rain is part of a living cycle, not a random event, one senses a kind of quiet intelligence in nature, a rhythm of movement that has nourished life on Earth for hundreds of millions of years. When rain falls, it alters the air in a subtle but measurable way. Droplets capture dust, pollen, and microscopic particles as they descend, cleansing the atmosphere and leaving behind air that feels clearer and fresher to breathe. This filtration effect is one reason the world smells different after rain. It's not just moisture you're inhaling, but purity. The scent known as petrichor, that deep, earthy fragrance, comes from oils released by soil organisms and from the impact of raindrops stirring molecules resting on dry surfaces. To breathe that scent is to experience a sensory echo of Earth's renewal. Rain does something remarkable to sound. It softens it. Even in busy environments, rainfall absorbs sharp noises, dulls harsh edges, and wraps everything in a gentle acoustic blanket. Streets become quieter, voices lower naturally, and the world seems to speak in whispers. If thunder is spectacle, rain is meditation. Its rhythm creates auditory texture, a natural white noise that calms the nervous system by offering a steady, predictable pattern that the brain can relax against. Listening to rain is like listening to a lullaby without beginning or end. Forests experience rain differently than open land. When droplets fall through layers of leaves, branches, moss, and undergrowth, each layer adds its own instrument to the symphony. The canopy catches much of the initial rainfall, letting it drip slowly rather than crash. Thick leaves and soft needles create little percussive murmurs, while mossy forest floors drink quietly rather than splash. To stand in a woodland during rainfall is to hear nature play thousands of tiny, coordinated notes, a slow, natural orchestra. Rain changes the color of the world. Reds darken, greens deepen, browns become richer, and even grays take on texture. Surfaces absorb water and reflect light differently. Stone becomes glossy, bark becomes polished, petals appear vivid. It's as though the world is quietly saturated with pigment and clarity. Rain makes texture, visible raindrops pooling in footprints, gathering on windows, tracing paths down railings, sliding across petals. In this softened saturation, even ordinary places take on gentle beauty. During steady rain, animals move differently. Birds retreat to sheltered branches. Cats and foxes tuck themselves beneath overhangs, and insects seek refuge under leaves and stones. Yet some creatures thrive in the wet. Frogs become active, snails and worms emerge, and certain birds sing louder in the softened air. Rain creates a shift in the choreography of life, signaling some species to rest and others to awaken. There is a quiet choreography happening outdoors, one that humans rarely notice unless they stand still and simply observe. When raindrops hit water ponds, puddles, streams, they create expanding circles that radiate outward in gentle rings. These ripples overlap and intersect, forming patterns that exist for mere seconds before fading into smoothness again. Watching them is deeply calming, like observing thought itself. Each ripple a moment of awareness, born, expanded, and then dissolved. Rain reminds us that nothing lasts forever, and yet everything leaves an impression, however brief. In cities, rain creates its own poetry reflections in wet pavement, neon lights shimmering in puddles, headlights stretching in silvery streaks on wet streets. Buildings appear softer, quieter, less imposing, as though the world has turned down its sharpness. Even the act of walking becomes gentler, steps slower, movements more deliberate. Rain domesticates the city, turning hard edges into something more pliant and calm. Rain has a cooling effect, not just physically, but emotionally, reducing irritability, quieting background tension, and lowering psychological pressure in subtle ways. There is something about the world being washed clean, even temporarily, that reassures the subconscious mind. Problems seem less sharp, thoughts less pushy, and the mood settles like sediment in a clear glass of water. Rain quietly tells us the world can pause, and so can you. And there are moments during rainfall when one might feel a sudden awareness of connection, that you, the ground, the clouds, the air, and the falling water are part of one continuous whole. Rain is not hitting you. It is passing through you, touching everyone and everything in its path, linking earth to sky in a single gesture. In those moments, rain becomes more than weather. It becomes belonging. When rainfall continues for hours, it creates a subtle change in the way time is experienced. Minutes seem to stretch, moments feel elongated, and thoughts drift in long, unbroken lines instead of jumping from point to point. Rain slows the internal clock, inviting the mind into a softer tempo, closer to nature's pacing. It's not that time stops, it simply loosens. The steady rhythm of falling droplets becomes a metronome for calmness, offering a quiet reminder that not every second needs to be filled with movement or noise. Rain subtly teaches the art of inhabiting the present. The scent of rain is different depending on where it falls. Rain in a city carries the mineral smell of stone and metal, mixing with distant echoes of fuel and dust. Rain in a forest brings scents of wood, pine, and wet soil. Rain on farmland releases earthy aromas of tilled ground and vegetation. And rain on the ocean carries a salty clarity that feels ancient and open. Each environment creates its own version of rain's perfume, and each one has its own emotional flavor: nostalgia, freshness, peacefulness, or depth. When raindrops collect on leaves and branches, they often hang suspended for a moment, growing heavier until weight overcomes surface tension. The moment they fall, one drop, leaving the edge of a leaf, is a tiny event of release. Watching these droplets form and detach, one after another, feels like watching miniature cycles of letting go. Rain demonstrates, on countless leaves in countless places, the simple truth that everything eventually releases its burden when the weight is ready. During nighttime rain, the world can feel almost dreamlike streetlights glow in soft halos, windows shine like warm beacons, and distant sounds become blurred beneath the hush of rainfall. The darkness, combined with the soft envelope of water, creates a cocooning feeling, a sense that the night is deeper, more protective, more nurturing. People often sleep more easily when it rains at night, as though the world outside is watching over them, keeping them safe under a blanket of sound. On rooftops, rain creates different rhythms depending on the material. Metal roofs ping with crisp patterns. Tile roofs produce softer tapping. Wooden structures offer duller, cozy knocks. And in places with many surfaces, gutters, balconies, awnings, window frames, these rhythms merge into a gentle symphony of percussive tones. The roof becomes an instrument played by sky and water, with each raindrop a tiny musician in a vast, unending orchestra. The way rain collects in gutters, rivulets, and drainage channels resembles the branching networks of rivers, roots, and veins. Patterns repeat at every scale, from drops streaking across windows to streams winding through fields. Rain reveals the fractal nature of movement, small flows echoing large flows, tiny currents mirroring massive ones. This quiet consistency suggests that the same laws that move storms also move sap through trees and blood through hearts, all part of the same elegant design. Rain can soften emotional landscapes too. People often feel more introspective when it rains. Memories rise, deeper thoughts surface, and internal voice becomes gentler. Rain draws attention inward, encouraging reflection, imagination, and contemplation. It feels like a permission slip from nature to turn away from the external world for a moment and explore the inner one. Some find comfort in melancholy during rain, not sadness, but a sweet, reflective tenderness. Children experience rainfall differently than adults. While adults often rush to avoid getting wet, children stretch their hands into the drops, stomp in puddles, tilt their heads upward to feel water on their skin. For them, rain feels like play, like a gift falling from above. This instinctive joy suggests that rain is something life recognizes as familiar and nurturing. Water falling from the sky is an ancient friend, one older than language. After rainfall stops, there is a soft pause, a moment when the world seems to hold a breath. Branches drip slowly, clouds shift apart, and calmness settles into the spaces where sound once fell. This post-rain silence feels different from ordinary quiet. It is quieter than quiet. It carries the memory of the rain, holding its softness even after the last drop has fallen. The hush after rainfall is like an exhale, nature releasing its sigh. And there are places on Earth where people build their homes and cultures around rain, storing it in tanks, guiding it through carved canals, blessing it in rituals, waiting for it with hope. To them, rain is not inconvenience, it is promise. It is the liquid thread that ties generations to land. In these cultures, rain is a language spoken between earth and sky, an ongoing conversation of nourishment and renewal. Sometimes, when rain falls lightly enough, individual droplets can be seen clinging to spider webs stretched between branches and beams, turning those webs into delicate necklaces of shining beads. Each drop magnifies the silk beneath it, refracting light into tiny points of brilliance. The web becomes visible not as a trap, but as a work of fragile architecture revealed only by rain's gentle touch. It's a reminder that much of nature's beauty is invisible until the right conditions reveal it. And rain is often the soft spotlight that allows hidden details to emerge. There are moments during rainfall when wind and gravity interact to create a slanted curtain of water, not falling straight down, but drifting diagonally across space like sheets of transparent fabric. Watching rain move this way evokes the sense of motion, made visible the sky, sketching diagonal lines across the air. Every drop tracing a brief journey. It's like watching invisible winds suddenly gain shape, letting you see their direction through water's compliance. Rain changes how people move outdoors. Footsteps become slower, shoulders hunch slightly, conversations soften. Umbrellas become shields of privacy. Two strangers passing under umbrellas might meet eyes briefly, sharing unspoken kinship in the weather's embrace. Rain creates gentle social intimacy, a shared experience that humbles everyone equally. Whether wealthy or poor, hurried or calm, soaked or sheltered, everyone becomes a participant in the same quiet, sky-given experience. Certain places are built to hear rain more beautifully: old temples with wide roofs, wooden porches with deep overhangs, narrow alleyways between stone walls, and covered gardens where droplets fall onto ponds. These spaces amplify, shape, and distribute the sounds of rainfall so that hearing it becomes an experience in itself. Rain becomes like a voice, reading poetry to architecture, and architecture, in turn, becomes an instrument that resonates with rain. When gentle rain meets warm pavement, tiny wisps of steam can rise and drift, barely visible except when a beam of light catches them. It's as though the ground is exhaling, releasing stored heat upward into the sky. These little plumes are brief, but strangely intimate miniature exchanges between earth and air. Watching them feels like observing nature, sighing, letting go of accumulated warmth through soft, smoky breaths. Rain nourishes soil in a way irrigation never can. Natural rainfall carries dissolved minerals and atmospheric compounds that enrich the earth, strengthening plant roots and activating soil microbiology. Beneath the surface, millions of microorganisms respond eagerly to moisture, waking from dormancy, multiplying, oxygenating soil. Rain triggers thriving underground worlds we never see. Every rainfall is not just water, it is life delivered gently from sky to soil. In the calm of light rain, plants respond visibly. Leaves uncurl slightly to catch droplets, branches dip, surfaces darken, and become glossy. There is a subtle vivacity in foliage touched by rain, as though each plant is drinking deeply, rejuvenating itself. To walk through a garden during rainfall is to stroll among living things, actively receiving nourishment, absorbing vitality. One can almost sense the satisfaction of life welcoming sustenance. Raindrops vary in size, depending on how they form. Some emerge as fine mist, others as round beads, and some as large, heavy drops that hit with soft splashes. The shape of a raindrop in air, not teardrop-shaped as often drawn, but more like a tiny hovering sphere, squashed slightly at the bottom, is a product of air resistance and surface tension. Knowing this doesn't take away the romance of rain. It deepens it by revealing that even the simplest natural form carries elegant physics inside it. Rain doesn't simply fall on rivers. It becomes them. The water that runs through streams and lakes is often the collected memory of countless storms, rain that fell ages ago, filtered through stone, or rain from yesterday traveling through creeks. When one watches raindrops merge into a flowing river, they are witnessing a return sky returning to water, journey returning to source. It is a closing of a beautiful cycle that has happened since before humans existed. And when rain finally stops, the world doesn't immediately return to its prior state. There is a lingering presence. Droplets cling to railings, gather along branches, rest inside footprints, hang from the edges of roofs. The sound shifts from pattering to dripping slower, more irregular, like a secret language fading gradually. The earth retains moisture, air retains softness, and mind retains calm. Rain leaves behind a softened world and a softened self. There is something deeply comforting in the way rain forms patterns against windows. Droplets gathering, merging, and then sliding downward in slow, winding paths. Each trail is a tiny journey, shaped by invisible imperfections in the glass. Watching these droplets drift downward can feel like observing miniature lives, momentary, wandering, dissolving into others. The window becomes a living surface, transforming rainfall into gentle motion that invites the mind to follow each slow movement until thoughts loosen and drift. During heavier rainfall, rooftops and awnings create small waterfalls, thin curtains of water spilling downward in smooth, unbroken sheets. These flows can become hypnotic to observe, always moving, always renewing, always continuing. There is no beginning or end, just continuous motion. This steady descent of water softens the boundary between shelter and storm. Standing behind it, one feels tucked safely away, peering out through a shimmering veil of liquid, like looking at the world through a moving curtain. There are moments when rain and light meet in soft harmony. Headlights reflecting on wet asphalt, street lamps casting a golden glaze over puddles, or in rare moments, sunlight emerging while rain still falls. In such light, the atmosphere feels enchanted, unearthly. Landscapes gleam, edges soften, color becomes luminous. It feels as though the world has put on a quiet dream skin, the surface of reality lightly blurred, inviting contemplation rather than observation. Rain reveals the poetry of light. People tend to speak more softly when rain is present, as though the mind reflexively matches the softness of the environment. Conversations slow, pauses lengthen, words become calm. Even strangers share more silence between sentences. Rain encourages a gentler mode of communication, not hurried, not sharp, simply human. It reminds us that sound can be kind, and that speech can be shaped by tenderness rather than urgency. Rain triggers memories uniquely because its sound and scent bypass intellectual pathways and move straight into emotional recall. A certain kind of rain may awaken memories of childhood, walking home from school under soaked jackets, or sitting by a fireplace, or watching beads of water gather on car windows during long drives. Rain links us to earlier versions of ourselves. We are not just hearing water. We are listening to echoes of our own life, unfolding through time. When rain gathers in soil and slowly percolates downward, it filters through layers of earth, soil, clay, rock, becoming purer as it moves. By the time it reaches underground reservoirs, it is transformed from simple surface water into ancient, mineral-rich groundwater. This journey downward is slow, sometimes taking weeks, sometimes years, a descent that holds patience as a fundamental quality. Underground, water rests in darkness, collected in quiet chambers, waiting for its return to light. In certain regions, rain resonates differently with local environments. In bamboo forests, droplets hit hollow stalks with wooden tones. In deserts, rare rainfall awakens dormant seeds that burst into sudden life. On tin roofs in rural villages, rain becomes percussion, fast, bright, joyful. Each place gives rain its own voice. Rain is not just falling, it is speaking in dialects of the landscape, translated by the materials it touches. One can feel the emotional difference between gentle rain and heavy rain. Light drizzle soothes like a whisper, while stronger rainfall feels like a cleansing, a washing away. Heavy rain can bring catharsis, an external release that mirrors inner release. After intense storms, many people feel lighter without knowing why, as though the sky did the crying for them. Rain carries an emotional intelligence, sensing when the world needs quiet and when it needs a flood of expression. When rain meets leaves of different shapes, the sound changes. Broad leaves echo with deeper tones. Thin leaves vibrate with high flickers. Pine needles create fast, whispering rhythms. Standing beneath trees during rain is like listening to a forest playing a natural xylophone. Every plant receives rain differently, and in doing so, creates its own music. Rain becomes a conductor, and the canopy a 1,000-stringed instrument. And there are times when one can stand at the edge of rainfall, literally on the border between dry and wet. A dividing line where one side of the air is filled with descending droplets and the other is untouched. To stand in such a threshold, 1 foot in rain, 1 in stillness, is to experience the delicacy of nature's precision. It reminds us that weather is not uniform, but made of invisible boundaries and shifting edges, constantly forming and dissolving. There is a soft magic in the way rain gathers into puddles, creating mirrors on the ground. In these shallow pools, the world above is reflected: trees, lights, sky, moving figures, all shimmering with slight distortion. Observing these reflections can feel like looking into a gentle, parallel world where everything is softened, slowed, and replicated upside down. The ripples caused by falling raindrops create circles that distort the reflection like breath on glass, reminding us that everything we see is temporary, shifting, fluid. These puddles are not interruptions of dryness. They are brief portals of reflection, capturing fragments of the sky on the Earth's surface. Rain encourages the body to move inward, not necessarily to withdraw, but to turn attention toward interior comfort. People wrap themselves in blankets, hold warm mugs, sit nearer to windows, tilt their heads slightly to listen. This inward gathering is instinctual, an ancient response encoded in human behavior. Rain taps into a softness within us that craves coziness, that associates water with shelter, that sees wetness on the outside and seeks warmth on the inside. Rain therefore shapes not just the environment, but the emotional posture of the body, curling inward like a leaf, closing softly. The rhythm of rainfall can vary so subtly that it creates micro-patterns: a brief tapering, a random acceleration, a sudden surge of heavier drops, and then return to softness. These variations are not random noise, they are signatures of atmospheric layers interacting. The ear hears them as lullaby rhythms, irregular enough to be interesting, but gentle enough to induce relaxation. Unlike artificial sounds, rain's patterns follow nature's logic complex, fractal, unpredictable in detail, but soothing in overall quality. Listening to rain is like listening to the earth breathe with delicate inconsistency. During rain, the horizon tends to blur gradually, especially where mist and droplets soften the edges of distance. Faraway objects, trees, hills, rooftops fade slightly into the gray, giving the world a sense of depth dissolved into softness. The sky blends with land. The definite becomes indefinite. The sharp becomes hazy. This blurring mimics the way consciousness drifts into sleep, details receding, distinctions dissolving, thoughts softening, until only impression remains. Rain gently erases the edges of vision, inviting the brain to do the same with thought. When rain interacts with stone-old pathways, brick walls, cobblestones, it deepens their textures and colors, revealing veins and variations that are invisible when dry. Stone becomes expressive under rain, like memory resurfacing. Cracks deepen, grains stand out, and hidden layers emerge. Walking on a rain-darkened stone path feels different from walking on a dry one. Footsteps sound more rounded, more cushioned, more deliberate. Rain, in this way, is a slow revealer, showing the soul of material hidden beneath dryness. In many cultures, rain is considered a blessing rather than an inconvenience, a gift that nourishes the land, feeds crops, and fills reservoirs. There are rituals that welcome the first raindrops. After dry seasons, hands lifted to the sky, faces turned upward, laughter rising as wetness returns. Rain connects humanity to its agricultural roots, to times when entire civilizations depended on rainfall, waited for it, prayed for it, revered it. Even today, whether we notice or not, a part of us still understands rain as sustenance. If one listens closely during rainfall, they might notice how the sound changes as areas become saturated. At first, raindrops splash distinctly on dry ground, producing gentle popping sounds. But as surfaces become wetter, the sound shifts into deeper, smoother tones, more of a softened hiss than a patter. The land changes its acoustic response as it drinks in the water, like a throat hum shifting after swallowing. Rain modifies the voice of the earth as moisture penetrates deeper. Raindrops themselves have lifetimes measured in seconds, formed in clouds, falling through air, hitting surface, merging, dissolving. They exist briefly as individual entities before returning to collective water. There is humility in this, an acknowledgement of impermanence and unity. Each raindrop's moment of individuality is short. Its contribution to the greater body of water is lasting. Listening to rain is listening to countless small lives joining a larger whole, a choir of tiny existences returning to unity. When rain falls softly at twilight, sounds around it seem to stretch. Distant car engines become low, slow hums. Footsteps smudge into muffled impressions. Voices disperse into subdued murmurings. Light itself behaves differently at this hour. Amber streetlight glows against the blue-gray atmosphere, creating a feeling of gentle gravity. Twilight rain slows the world down, pulling time into a syrupy flow that feels like a sigh extending through the evening. And there are moments when one steps outside into a gentle rain and feels the smallest droplets settle on skin, cool, tender, barely perceptible. These micro-sensations awaken a bodily awareness that usually lies dormant. Rain touches not just the surface of skin, but the awareness beneath it. Each droplet is a tiny message. You are here. You are alive. You are part of this world that is forever renewing itself through cycles of falling and rising water. Rain doesn't merely wet, it connects. When rain lingers over a landscape for many hours or days, it creates an emotional quietness that seems to settle into the human mind. The rhythm of the day shifts, becoming less about activity and more about being. There is often less urgency to leave the house, less compulsion to perform, less pressure to accomplish. Rain grants permission, in its subtle and wordless way, to pause. It creates an atmosphere where doing nothing feels natural, even necessary. There is a softness in this, a sweet suspension of expectation, in which the mind can simply rest without striving. There is a phenomenon where raindrops accumulate on thin branches and eventually slide down them, forming slender threads of water that hang momentarily before releasing. These threads catch light like liquid silver, turning ordinary twigs into strands of glowing moisture. Observing this delicate movement, water slowly descending along wood, then letting go, feels like watching time itself in its natural tempo. It is not fast, not impatient, simply steady. Rain invites the mind to relearn this pace, to understand that not everything must rush downward. Some things fall with intention and grace. On rainy days, the boundary between inside and outside becomes comforting and meaningful. The walls of a home feel sturdier, the roof more protective, and the window more intimate. Looking outward through glass, seeing the world blurred and softened by droplets, gives a feeling of quiet refuge. It fosters gratitude for shelter, for warmth, for the simple comfort of being dry. Rain heightens awareness of comfort not as luxury, but as primal safety. When rain falls on open fields, the scent of the earth rises with surprising strength. Minerals, roots, decomposing leaves, microorganisms, all releasing fragrance upward. This scent is not only pleasant, it is deeply grounding. It reminds us that we are creatures of soil and water, not detached spectators. There is something ancient in inhaling the smell of wet ground, something that speaks to a lineage stretching back to our earliest ancestors, who understood that the scent of rain meant survival, nourishment, and renewed life. The color of the sky during rainfall is a palette of softness, layered grays, muted blues, pale silvers. These tones create a visual calmness that eases cognitive strain. The eye is not overstimulated. The brain does not need to process vivid or clashing colors. Instead, vision slips gently into a state of comfortable neutrality. The sky becomes a soothing backdrop, a soft ceiling calming the senses and promoting internal restfulness. In some environments, rain collects in the grooves of tree bark, in tiny hollows of stone, and in dents of earth, creating miniature reservoirs that sustain insects, birds, and small animals. These pools may last only a short time, yet they provide crucial hydration to tiny beings who depend on transient water. To think of rain not just as something humans experience, but as a blessing to countless unseen lives, expands the sense of connection to the ecosystem. Rain becomes not simply weather, but quiet generosity. Rain can alter the way footsteps sound on wet grass. They become whispery. On muddy terrain, they thud softly. On soaked pavement, they make faint, sliding tones. This creates the sensation that each step is being absorbed by the earth rather than pushed against it. Walking in rain feels more like gliding than stomping, a cooperative movement with the ground rather than a forceful one. Rain teaches a gentler way of touching the world. Sometimes, when rain pauses between showers, the world seems to glow, not with sunshine, but with lingering moisture. Surfaces glisten, air sparkles faintly with suspended droplets, and everything feels more alive. The quiet after rain feels like the earth, smiling, freshly washed, refreshed, renewed. Colors intensify briefly. Moss becomes luminous. Soil becomes rich chocolate brown. Trunks of trees take on deeper warmth. It is a fleeting moment, a glimpse of the world in heightened clarity. Rain also has a way of drawing the gaze downward to puddles, rivulets, raindrops trembling on surfaces away from the sprawling horizon. This shift in focus invites a more contemplative attention, not scanning forward, but noticing details at one's feet. A tiny pool of water may reflect a perfect upside-down tree. A single drop might hang on a railing with microscopic perfection. Rain invites intimacy with smallness, teaching the eye to love details rather than distances. And within all of this, there is the profound truth that rain is part of our own bodies. The same water that falls today has cycled through oceans, clouds, rivers, and living organisms for millions of years. The rain you hear outside once flowed inside a plant, once rested in an ancient sea, once drifted in mist above mountains. Its journey is circular and eternal. In listening to rain, you are listening to history, to water that has known continents, known epochs, known sunlight and darkness. Rain is memory made liquid. There is a unique intimacy in the way rain interacts with clothing fabric, slowly darkening as water spreads through fibers, threads absorbing liquid in quiet radiance. A jacket begins to glisten. Hair becomes heavy with droplets, and sleeves gather small pools of moisture along edges and seams. This gradual soaking process brings a heightened awareness of the body's boundary, the subtle sensation of coolness on skin, the texture of damp cloth hugging closer. Rain connects body and environment, dissolving the distance between person and world, gently reminding us that we are not separate from nature, but touched by it. Sometimes, when rain taps softly on rooftops through the night, dreams become deeper, longer, more immersive. The sound seems to create an auditory cocoon around sleep itself, a steady shield that blocks abrupt noises and protects the subconscious from interruption. Many people wake after a night of rain feeling unusually rested, as though the outside world kept a gentle watch while they slept. Rain, in this way, becomes a nighttime guardian, a protector of dreams. In gardens and forests, rain reveals patterns of water movement, forming tiny streams that choose paths through soil based on barely perceptible contours. It shows how terrain shapes fluid, how the earth guides water toward lower ground in channels that were always there, just invisible when dry. Observing these micro-streams is like watching the Earth's blueprint, the invisible map of how gravity, shape, and softness of soil collaborate to direct flow. Rain makes visible the quiet logic of landscape. On certain quiet afternoons, when rain falls lightly and continuously, a kind of hush settles over human communities. Fewer cars pass, fewer doors open, fewer voices rise outdoors. People instinctively retreat inward into homes, into thoughts, into reflection. The world seems to say, go inward for a while, take shelter. This shared behavioral shift creates a subtle, collective stillness, a society-wide pause that feels like a slow exhale. Rain can spark an urge for storytelling, for reading, writing, remembering, confiding. Perhaps because the mind mirrors the softness of the weather and turns toward interior landscapes. The quiet rhythm outside opens doors inside imagination, blooming like mist. Rain creates space for introspection and narrative in a way sunny days rarely do. It is an invitation to express, not loudly, but gently, through thought and memory. On lakes and seas, rainfall creates thousands of tiny impact points, little dimples where each droplet kisses the surface. From a distance, this makes the water look alive with texture, shimmering like the skin of some breathing being. The surface becomes a field of motion, constantly rewritten by descending droplets. To watch rain on water is to witness the tender meeting of sky and earth, two elements touching gently and continuously. Rain also affects light coming from human homes, windows glowing more warmly against the dim sky, edges softened by haze. If one looks at a house across a rainy street, the sight seems infused with comfort, golden rectangles of light shining through mist, promising warmth behind glass. Rain externalizes domestic sanctuary, turning indoor light into quiet beacons across softened darkness. When rain falls on dry earth after a long absence, cracks in the soil slowly darken as they drink water. What once looked parched and fragmented becomes whole again, lines closing gradually as moisture expands soil. This rehydration is both visual and symbolic, the return of flexibility, the undoing of brittleness. Earth itself seems to sigh with relief, restoring suppleness, molecule by molecule. Even the smallest organisms emerge with rainfall, tiny springtails, delicate insects that only thrive in moist conditions. The forest floor, which may appear barren in dryness, becomes alive with minute motion when wet. Rain awakens hidden worlds, micro-communities that exist only in moisture-rich environments. To realize this is to understand that rain is not simply falling on a world, it is activating it. And in the moments when you stand beneath gentle rain and look upward, watching droplets fall toward your face, there is a sensation of surrender, a willingness to be part of something larger, to allow nature to touch you. The sky ceases to be distant. It becomes presence, proximity, connection. In those upward-looking moments, rain feels like a quiet dialogue between earthbound life and the endless sky above a wordless, universal conversation spoken in water. There are times when rain falls so gently that it almost seems to float rather than fall, drifting downward as if reluctant to touch the ground. In these moments, each droplet appears suspended in a delicate hesitation, moving with such softness that it feels like a dream of rain rather than actual rainfall. Standing in such weather makes the world feel muted and half-present, as if everything is happening one layer behind reality. It invites a kind of quiet wonder. You don't feel rained upon so much as lightly kissed by moisture, touched by a cloud dissolving into its gentlest form. When rainfall is steady and prolonged, soil becomes saturated to a point where it cannot absorb more water, and excess moisture begins to assemble into rivulets that curl and snake through the landscape. These small threads of water seek each other, merging into larger flows that wander downhill, gathering, joining, becoming streams. Watching this progression unfold gives the impression of witnessing water, remembering its ancient instinct to move, to gather, to seek the lowest place, to find its way home. Rain reveals the innate intelligence of water, its quiet determination, its patient persistence. There is a phenomenon in forests during rainfall where the canopy overhead captures much of the water, causing it to travel through leaves and branches before reaching the ground, creating delayed drops and staggered rhythms. This layered journey means that rain arrives on different surfaces at different times. Some leaves may not be touched until long after others. The forest floor receives rain not as a single uniform shower, but as a complex choreography of delayed droplets, each arriving with its own timing. Listening to this is like hearing nature speak in overlapping voices, each drop part of a slow conversational harmony. During rainfall, colors of human clothing change as fabrics absorb water. Reds deepen into burgundy, blues darken into navy, yellows mellow toward amber. This natural dyeing effect transforms clothing into shifting palettes of emotion, as though people themselves are becoming part of the weather. A bright jacket becomes somber, a pale shirt becomes saturated, a patterned umbrella glows darker. Rain gently alters how we present ourselves to the world, painting us in tones of reflection rather than brightness. When rain falls consistently, streams and rivers rise slightly, their surfaces smoothing out as incoming water adds volume and continuity. The increased depth reduces turbulence, and the motion of the current becomes more glass-like, more collected. Watching a river in rainfall is to observe a sense of quiet fullness, a body of water accepting more of itself, becoming more itself. There's a fullness here, a dignity, as though the river is swelling with calm confidence rather than force. In the quiet privacy of interior spaces during rainfall, bedrooms, libraries, quiet living rooms, the sound of rain outside becomes a background lullaby that softens thought. It transforms walls into acoustic shields, separating you from the outside world with a gentle curtain of sound. This distance is comforting, like being tucked into the quiet center of a cocoon while the weather watches over from outside. Rain creates an auditory sanctuary, a safe bubble of hush where the mind finally releases its grip on the day. Sometimes, when rain falls through cold air, droplets become supercooled liquid below freezing temperature and only crystallize into ice when they strike branches or surfaces. This creates fragile glaze layers that shine like clear glass over everything they touch. Under such conditions, the world becomes sculpted in transparency, every twig coated in a smooth crystal casing, every surface encased in delicate armor. Walking through such a transformed world feels like wandering through a glass forest, fragile, luminous, and utterly still. Rain carries emotion in its presence and absence. A dry season makes people yearn for it. A sudden rainfall can make someone close their eyes and lift their face to the sky. There are cultures where people dance for rain, sing for rain, celebrate rain, and even for those who do not consciously do so, the human heart still responds, recognizing rain as relief, as cleansing, as a signal of life continuing. Rain is not just water, it is emotional weather. Rain has the ability to linger in the fibers of memory. One might remember a specific rain from years ago, the one on a childhood window pane, or the one on a quiet afternoon before a turning point, or the one on a long walk where something in the heart finally softened. Rain attaches itself to experience, pairing water with feeling, sound with emotion. These memories do not fade. They settle into us like moisture into soil. And there are times when rain makes us aware of our own breathing in the rhythm of its droplets. We sense the rhythm of our lungs, both steady, both natural, both cyclical. Listening to rain can feel like listening to the heartbeat of the planet, while feeling your own heartbeat quietly keeping time. It is in these moments that rain reveals its deepest truth, that everything alive is moving in rhythm, and that the rhythms are connected. There is a kind of rain that falls in very fine, mist-like droplets, so light that they hardly seem to land at all. Instead, hovering in the air like suspended breath. Walking through such weather feels like moving through a cloud, resting gently upon the ground. It coats your skin, not in droplets, but in a velvety coolness, a quiet moisture that settles slowly and evenly, like the planet closing its eyes and exhaling. This kind of rain blurs the world in softness. Distant objects fade gracefully, edges dissolve, and the air itself becomes visible, almost tactile. In this misty shroud, one feels held rather than rained upon, as if wrapped in the gentlest expression of water imaginable. When rain falls steadily at night, far from city lights or traffic, there is a special darkness that forms a darkness, not empty, but full of texture and hum. In this darkness, the sound of rain becomes amplified. It settles deeper into the body, resonating not just through hearing, but through sensation. It feels like the entire world has gone quiet, except for one unified, soothing voice. In such nights, thoughts slow to a crawl, cares lose their edges, and the boundary between waking and dreaming blurs until the mind drifts seamlessly into sleep. Rain at night does not simply create rest, it escorts consciousness towards slumber with patient tenderness. Sometimes, rain arrives in a sudden shift. A sky that was dry and bright just moments before becomes darkened by incoming clouds, and the first drops fall with a kind of ceremonial significance. There is a moment, a transitional moment, when the world knows the rain is coming before the rain has fully arrived. Leaves stir with anticipation. Birds adjust their calls. The air thickens with humidity. And then rainfall begins, as if someone switched on a celestial faucet. That arrival carries emotional weight, like the world moving into a softer state, settling into a quieter version of itself. Rain on metal produces its own unique symphony, the pinging on car roofs, the musical tapping on gutters, the delicate patter on tin sheds. Unlike rain on grass or soil, which is whisper soft, rain on steel sings with a crisp clarity, like tiny notes struck on unseen bells. Listening to it brings a curious calm. The sound is steady, patterned, almost rhythmic. Each drop is a beat. Each beat is a reminder of continuity. It is nature making music, not with instruments shaped by humans, but with surfaces shaped by time and weather. Rain encourages stillness in animals. As well, birds tuck themselves beneath branches. Cats settle near windows. Deer pause beneath trees. And small insects hide in the shelter of leaves. The living world becomes quieter, not in fear, but in acceptance. Rain is not an enemy to most creatures. It is a condition they have adapted to seamlessly. Watching this instinctive pause, this collective, silent acceptance, reminds us that rain is part of life's choreography, and every being on earth knows how to dance with it. There are places in the world where rain falls on moss-covered stones, and the effect is mesmerizing. Tiny beads of water cling to the soft green surfaces like pearls. The moss becomes luminous, holding droplets that magnify its tiny structures. Each bead acts as a miniature lens, bending light and making the moss beneath appear enlarged, vivid, almost microscopic. Observing these small interactions, water on moss feels like peering into a secret world, where softness holds moisture with gentle precision. When rain falls on rooftops, old and new, it reveals the personality of each structure. On clay tiles, it runs in smooth streams. On asphalt shingles, it forms a dampened map of darkening patterns. On thatched roofs, it trickles quietly through woven fibers. Each rooftop has its own relationship with rain, its own voice, its own cadence, and the water shapes paths through familiarity. Rain traces the memory of architecture. Sometimes, during certain atmospheric conditions, rain can be accompanied by distant thunder that never approaches a deep rumbling that stays on the horizon, just far enough not to startle. The sound rolls like a slow drumbeat under the sky, infusing the air with a low resonance that almost vibrates through bones. This far-off thunder feels not threatening, but ancient, like the earth speaking from a forgotten time, and it pairs with rain beautifully, adding depth to the experience without distorting its peacefulness. When rain falls through sunlight, a rare and magical condition, it creates shimmering veils of golden droplets. The air becomes filled with shining particles, each catching a glint of sun as it descends. In these moments, rain does not dim the world, it illuminates it in a different spectrum. Shadows soften, colors warm, and the falling water becomes something radiant. It is said in some cultures that sunlit rain is a time of blessings when the sky gives water and light at once, offering beauty without asking anything in return. There are moments after long contemplation with rainfall, whether heard from a window, felt on the skin, or watched through drifting light, when something subtle in the heart begins to loosen. Rain has a way of emotional cleansing, not dramatic, not forceful, but gentle. It rinses not just streets and rooftops, it washes thought, memory, anxiety, until the mind becomes clearer, like a window after wiping. In these quiet shifts, rain becomes not just weather, but emotional restoration, a soft renewal, a quiet healing, happening within as naturally as it happens without. Sometimes, after hours of rainfall, there comes a moment when the sound changes, not because the rain has stopped, but because your ears have adjusted so completely that the noise of water becomes part of your internal rhythm. The droplets hitting the ground, roofs, leaves, and pavement blur into a continuous hush that feels like it's coming from inside your body rather than the world outside. You no longer hear the rain as separate sound, you inhabit it, as though the falling water has synchronized with your nervous system. In this state, rain becomes a living background, not noticed consciously, but felt deeply like a mother's heartbeat to a sleeping infant. There is a kind of rain that arrives in waves, heavy and insistent for a moment, then softening into quiet drizzle, then returning with heavier strokes, then fading again. This pulsing pattern brings to mind the rhythm of breathing, or the movement of tides, or the settling of thought into phases. Standing near a window during this kind of rain gives the sense of being rocked, subtly lulled by the planet's inhalations and exhalations. It is not monotony, it is variability in harmony, unpredictability within comfort. Rain is never perfectly uniform, it evolves, and in its evolution, it mirrors the fluctuations of emotion and awareness within us. In remote natural places, deep forests, high mountains, far deserts, rain can create a silence that feels almost mythic. There are no engines, no footsteps, no roofs, only the sound of water falling on the world itself. A raindrop landing on a fern sounds different from a drop landing on gravel. A drop sinking into sand is different from one meeting stone. But in the absence of artificial noise, these sounds merge into something ancient, something that feels like the earth speaking in a language older than human life. Listening to rain in such solitude can bring a sensation of humility, the awareness that we are small in time and space, and yet profoundly connected to a greater living system. After rainfall, when the clouds begin to part, the atmosphere often becomes unusually clear, as though the sky has been rinsed. Distant objects become visible with astonishing crispness. Mountains appear nearer, stars seem brighter, and air seems easier to breathe. This clarity is not imagined. Rain literally removes dust particles, cleanses the air, and restores transparency to the atmosphere. The world is sharper, fresher, more defined. It feels like nature has tidied itself, turned the page, reset the environment. People sometimes say the world looks washed clean after rain, and it truly is, both materially and perceptually. When walking through rain without umbrella or hood, letting water freely touch the face, there can be a surprising psychological release. The droplets falling upon forehead, cheeks, hair, they strip away self-consciousness, social performance, and cultivated posture. One becomes like a child again, simply present, unguarded, alive. Rain does not care who you are or what you've done. It falls on everyone the same. In those unshielded moments, something inside unclenches as though the rain is washing away not just dirt or dust, but expectation, anxiety, and tension that accumulated invisibly through the day. Some rains carry memories of an earlier life on the earth water that once was locked inside glaciers, that later evaporated, drifted, condensed, and now descends again. Each droplet has traveled through enormous cycles of time, perhaps touching ocean tides centuries ago, or resting in a subterranean aquifer beneath ancient rock. When you feel rain on your skin, you might be touching water that dinosaurs once drank, water that once circulated in prehistoric seas or fell upon primordial forests. Rain is a traveler through epochs, carrying with it whispers of Earth's deep history. When rain meets city life, it changes the mood of streets and humans alike. Neon signs become blurred into painterly streaks of color. Headlights stretch into luminous trails. Sidewalks transform into flowing mosaics of reflection. People walk faster or slower. Conversations soften. Footsteps make softer impacts. A rainy city is a different city, gentler, more introspective, more cinematic. Rain softens civilization itself, melting its edges, calming its pace, dissolving its sharpness. The feeling of listening to rain while safe indoors touches something very primal, a sense of shelter deeply encoded in our ancient biological patterns. Humans evolved in environments where exposure to elements could mean vulnerability and danger. To hear rain while dry, warm, and protected is to experience an instinctive reassurance. You are safe. The storm is outside, and you are inside. It activates relaxation at the core of the nervous system, a quiet animal relief that allows deeper rest than sunshine or stillness ever could. Rain also holds a psychological mirror. Sometimes it makes us reflective, contemplative, nostalgic. It is not uncommon for memories to surface during rainfall, old thoughts, forgotten faces, unresolved feelings. The rain seems to encourage this gentle excavation, not painful, not overwhelming, just soft remembering. Rain is introspective weather. The outer world slows, and the inner world awakens quietly. The mind becomes allowed to feel, to revisit what it once buried in dust. And finally, there comes the moment when the rain stops. Even if one does not see it, the absence becomes audible. The hush of water is replaced by a deeper, more profound stillness, not silence, but something richer. The world holds its breath. Leaves begin to release droplets in delayed cascades, like small afterthoughts of water. Pavement reflects light in thin, shimmering films. Air feels smoother, and time seems to pause. The end of rainfall is not abrupt. It drifts downward toward quiet, as though the sky is gently closing a door. The earth rests, saturated, reflective, grateful, and the listener drifts with it into calm. And now, as the rain drifts quietly into memory and the night settles even deeper around you, allow the calm that has been building in your mind to stay with you. The world outside is wet and glistening, resting beneath a sky that has finally emptied itself. Every branch, every blade of grass, every rooftop and pathway has been touched by water, refreshed and renewed. Let that same sense of renewal wash gently through your thoughts, smoothing, softening, releasing anything that was tense or tangled within you. You are allowed to rest as naturally and effortlessly as the earth rests after rainfall. Feel the quiet that the weather has left behind, a quiet that filters into your breath, into your heartbeat, into the space behind your eyelids. Nothing is urgent. Nothing is unfinished. Everything can wait until morning. In this soft hush of post-rain stillness, you are simply here, safe, sheltered, breathing in rhythm with the world that sleeps beneath the damp sky. Thank you for spending this gentle time with me tonight. If this rainy journey brought you a sense of peace, I would be truly grateful if you subscribed, perhaps left a like, or shared this video with someone who might need a moment of calm. Until next time, may your dreams be quiet, your rest deep, and your night filled with the same soft serenity that rain brings to the earth. Good night.